Man, what is going on, Aaron Burke? Come on. I cannot believe I have you on Unscripted.
I'm honored to be with you.
This is like a bucket list for Unscripted.
It's anytime I get to talk to you, it's always a joy.
And it took season 4, so we're in season 4.
It's okay.
And it means the world to me. I was texting with the blonde bishop of Louisiana, Steve Robinson, recently, and he was bragging on you. You got Louisiana roots. I mean, you got
Louisiana roots, but I don't have hunting. I don't have hunting roots. I went hunting with y'all.
Yeah.
And I showed up in this outfit.
Oh,
and they go, is this a youth pastor just coming to hang out with us?
Yes, youth pastors conference. No, it wasn't. Give me some Louisiana roots.
All right. So my family got saved, filled with the Holy Spirit, Jimmy Swagger Ministries
yes,
in the 80s.
JSBC represent.
And then we were at Hosanna, grew up there.
That's right.
And then 95, my dad, I mean, we had all these like small little car businesses around
in Baton Rouge
Highway. Just a couple of little car businesses. And then they all shut down and we moved to Pensacola in 95. And so we were in Florida since then. And
you were part of Brownsville Revival?
I was a kid.
If people don't know about that, give me a minute
there
on
was
that.
an unbelievable outpouring of the Holy Spirit in the 90s. So we moved there a week before, visited that church, and then we went to another church, and then we were going in there and just checking out revival. It was unreal to see it. People all over the world are sitting there, and you're like, how'd you hear about this? TV, newspaper? No, just somebody told me.
There was no social media.
No social media. This is every country in the world. They're in this room, lining up at 6 o'clock in the morning to service that night, and got to be raised in that, but had my crazy teenage years, and then got just radically transformed on a mission field. I was on a mission field and God called me into ministry and I said, I want to do this the rest of my life. And 16 years old, started a little Bible club in my school, and that's where I started ministry. And then
ended up at Southeastern.
Ended up at Southeastern,
We probably met in Baton Rouge, I think you came around a little bit.
I had been a healing place many times in Baton Rouge and still family there. And so I always admired you from a distance and then met you in Baton Rouge.
Much older. Much older. But ended up in Southeastern.
Met my wife there, and then, but we didn't get married. We were dating for a while, and then I went full-time missions to Sri Lanka. So it was right after the tsunami hit, 2004. I graduated 2005. I was there 6 months later, working on the ground, 5,000 kids there, helping in ministry. And crazy providence of God to just help some people. This summer before I did my internship at a church, and so I said 3 months to this internship. They said, your first month of your internship is going to be in children's ministry. I said, no, thank you, sir. I said, I don't do anything with kids. I'll never work with kids.
Never.
Said, you put me with the preaching, put me with youth, put me with missions. That's what I'm called. The year later, I'm running 5,000 kids in a program in Sri Lanka. It was providence of God, how he set me up.
Yeah.
And so then I did that, started a business to fund it, and did a thrift store in Pensacola to fund our missions work that we were working with all these churches. I was 21 years old. I was like stupid stuff. They go, show us your credit. What's my credit? I don't have any credit.
Credit card?
Yeah, I can put everything on a credit card.
Yeah, exactly.
Started the thrift store, and it funded our missions work. And while I did that, the youth pastor at Brownsville resigned. So I became the youth pastor there for 6 years.
I didn't know you were there that long.
Yeah, 6 years running missions work overseas, youth pastor, got my MBA.
Oh, that makes
and then
so much
Katie and I
sense.
got married. And then a year and a half into being married, we just knew God called us to plant a church.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, because then I came to ARC and walked into Highlands, and we had a 3-week-old baby. 3 weeks old. We had to take PTO, do our vacation time. This was our vacation. And we come to Highlands and sat there at ARC, and it was a breath of fresh air.
Wow.
And I said, this is how we're going to do ministry the rest of our life. Yeah. And so resigned for our job 6 months later, moved in faith to Tampa, started the church, and it's been history ever since.
Radiant Church.
Radiant Church.
Where'd you get the name?
My wife, I said, you know what, Dino? I said, I think we should be Life Church. I've never heard of a Life Church before.
There are none. There's
none. At least there's none that's making an impact.
Yeah,
she said,
nobody's making an impact.
I'm over the life idea. She said, I think we should bring light into Tampa. And I said, we're not going to be the church that's like, come get lit with us in Tampa. That's not going to be us. But we looked around at the name, and that word radiant popped out. Ephesians 5, Christ loved the church, gave himself for the church, wash her, cleanse her, purify her, and make her into a radiant church.
Stands out.
Yeah.
And it describes you and your wife.
Well,
I mean, it so much makes sense. I knew pieces of that story, but it is unscripted for a reason. We don't really rehearse this or go over something. But hearing those other bridge in your story, it makes so much sense to who you are and what you're about. Because I think the world of you, everybody does. You've got a good name. You've got a great wife, 5 children.
5 kids.
5 children. Yep. And you know, I told somebody this. I told Steve that first time I mentioned you, Tim, is he's doing it the right way for the right reason.
Well, appreciate
which
that.
is super important today. You got to do it, and you got to do it right.
Right.
And that makes sense with your heart for missions, your heart for people, your heart for the world. You know, I think about the marks on my heart have so often happen when you're reaching the least.
Yep.
And you care for the least. Your church cares for the least. You've gone to Tampa not just to build a big church in that region, but you've gone there to help people.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that heart.
Well, you go for the people that nobody wants.
Yeah.
God will give you the people that everybody wants. And so we just went after going, you know what, 87% of our community wouldn't go to church. And we said, let's go after that target.
Why is Tampa like that?
I think it's a melting pot of so much. I think it's had a lot of church hurt. I think a lot of people have been burned.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had some big rises and falls.
Busy.
It's Florida, yeah. And
outdoors.
Yeah, you want to be on the boat and you want to be out. And we got to create a compelling experience. And we're just laser focused on reaching lost people and loving people. My wife, you know, you get around, you can't help but just feel like, you know,
Jesus.
She just loves people, you know, loves Jesus more than I do. And so I think that people know if you're authentic and they can see through fake. And so we just try to be as real. And I've got a lot of issues. My church knows we got issues and they laugh about it. But I think they love the authenticity of it. And I think they love mission. People need something bigger than themselves. And they're bored. They're bored with the American dream. They need God's dream for their life. And when you give them a little glimpse of what their life can be like when it comes to impact and influence and making a difference for the glory of God, I think people, when they bite on that, and we're always just casting a vision to them, what's next? Give them something bigger than themselves. So we launched in this dirty, rundown dollar theater. I mean, you preached there. We were probably a year in.
And I remember going there thinking, wow, it smells like bad buttered popcorn.
It was
spilled Coke.
Don't tell me, all the church planners that are watching this, don't tell me you can't build the church because the building's bad.
With a sticky floor.
I'm telling you, we've done it with a sticky floor. I had one time, I'm preaching, Dino, and I'm thinking, I've raised in revival culture. I've been in the revival culture. I'm like, I'm bringing in the net. This is it. The conviction of God's in the room. And people start screaming in the back of the room. And I'm going, that's it. The presence of God. They're about to jump over the seats and run to the altar.
Yeah.
No, there's a rat fell from the ceiling. Just run around, around the back. They're screaming. So that's church planning right there. Yeah. But it was so fun and it's so enjoyable. And then ran out of space after space after space. We went multiple auditoriums in this theater.
I remember that.
Just trying to figure out ways to reach more people, but living way below our means. I'm telling you, way below our budget, saving. Learned all that from you, Pastor Chris, learned that from Ark. It's just don't spend it all. Give to missions heavy and then save. And that's what we live by. We didn't have a full-time staff member until we were 700 people, other than me. We had no full-time staff. It was a Craig Rochelle said, I sat with him and he goes, get 10 people that are all part-timers. Just get them until you can't manage that 10, then hire a full-time. Well, I was like, we did that till we were 700.
Yeah, until 700.
Yeah, I was sold on the fact that we're gonna have so much margin to be able to reach people for Christ.
Yeah.
And
well, you were on mission. I mean, you talked about that. We're right now at Highlands College.
Yep.
We're shooting this one here over at the college, which is it's on mission. And we're in the global ministry missions studio. I wanted to be here because I know that's your heart.
It is.
And you can see here local, national, international things that are happening. You guys do local outreach. You do serve.
Yep.
You're engaged. You're helping plant churches across the country. You're involved with what's happening around the world. And you hit on it for a minute, but I don't know if there's anything more important than that missions, that whether it's 10%, 12%, 50%, even from day one of being a generous church.
Yes. You can have a local church with a global impact, and that should be the goal of every church. We are an unavoidable presence in our community, and yet we're in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
And you got to have both.
Do you feel like it's a mandate for you?
It's a mandate. It's not an option to be considered. It's a command to be obeyed. We are called to go. And I think the health of our church is so much in what we're doing around the world.
Yeah, it's tied together.
It's so tied together. And there's always the tension. It's, what, do we do local or do we do global? Yes. Yeah, we do both of them. Okay. We're going to reach people around in our backyard, but we're not going to forsake the least of these. We know poor in America, but we don't really know poor.
Yeah.
We know spiritual poverty in America, but we don't know real spiritual poverty. You get in places in the world, they've never heard the name of Jesus.
Dark.
And you take care of them. I don't know about you, but I have never regretted a missions check being sent.
Never.
Ever. It's been tough. It's been stretching. I've never regretted it.
Even personally, in my own life. I was somewhere last night, and there was a homeless gentleman that came and started talking to me. He's very kind, and I gave him a little something because I knew in my heart I was supposed to, and I was leaving. Another gentleman was sitting there. I kind of left him out. And I said, "How are you doing?" And I had a little bit more cash in my pocket, and I knew I needed a little bit for the week. And he said, "Man, I just got out of jail." He said, "I got released out of city jail about a day ago, and I'm out here trying to figure it out." And I gave him a little something. And even at that point, you're still being stretched.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of pastors want a generous church, but they're not willing to be generous themselves.
Absolutely.
So you have to be intentional. You have to think about it.
And that generous heart, God blesses. And I'm telling you, whenever it's the question, you always ask yourself, what is the more for? What is the more for? God keeps blessing our life. What's the more for? Every honorarium, every check, every blessing that I get in my life, I'm going, okay, God. I'm all about it, blessing my kids, blessing my family. I'm all about buy the boat. It's awesome. But we better love on people. We better care for people. Life's too short.
Well, you do that well.
Well, I learned it from you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Unscripted. We just want to take a brief moment to say thank you. I can't say enough thank yous to Hand of Hope. This is the mission arm of Joyce Meyer Ministry for making this episode possible. Really, they make everything we tape and everything we do here digitally possible. Early on, after COVID, we had this need for a studio, and we had needs for audio and video. And I called David Meyer. He talked, of course, to his parents. They immediately helped fund this incredible space. I can't say enough thank yous. Let me tell you a little bit about Hand of Hope. Hand of Hope's goal is to simply help as many hurting people as possible, literally, to alleviate human suffering and help Christians grow in their faith to make a difference to the people around them. Hand of Hope, again, is that missions arm of JMM. They share the love of God around the world through a variety of outreaches, including feeding programs, children's home, disaster relief, domestic outreach programs. They help a lot with that. Human trafficking, the rescue and restoration of people, medical, dental outreach, hospital clinics, prison outreach, water relief, so many more. It's incredible. I've been with them on trips, dozens of trips around the world to see right there at the point of need. So they are an incredible outreach partner. Make sure you check them out, arcchurches.com/partners. They are the best. The multi-site thing has been incredible. There's favor on you for multi-site. We've watched Seacoast Church, we've watched Life Church, we've watched Highlands, we've watched so many other great churches do multi-site. You've learned a lot from them, but there's a favor on you about multi-site right now. Well, tell me about it.
We messed it up our first one. I mean, it was tough on our first one. We went 10 minutes away in a rough building right up the street. We didn't give their best team. They had bad AC.
Dino, what made you do that then? What was
space.
It?
We didn't have any space.
Oh, okay.
And if people go in multi-site, if multi-site is not a solution to help you grow, multi-site is in response to a growing church. So if you can't grow where you're not going to grow in 2 locations. You're going to duplicate mediocrity. So fix where you're at now.
Hey!
So we were growing. We didn't have any space, and so we got to open up another location. So we opened it up. Then our space that we got the lease. We were able to renovate the space. And when we did that, I came up with this brilliant idea. I said, Dino, we're going to take everybody. We're going to bring everybody to our second spot for this time that we're under construction. And then when we open the building back up, everybody's going to want to stay there because of that beautiful, they're going to know the dream.
You just knew that was going to work.
I just knew. So in the middle of summer, we opened the building back up. 80 people are left in the multi-site.
Everybody went back.
Everybody went back. They were all excited about the new building. I made every mistake you can make. But I'll tell you what I did that was the one saving grace is I said, if this thing's going to struggle, then at least I'm going to learn from it so I can do it well the next time. And sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And we flipped it and we said,
learn.
let's launch our third campus and let's do it healthy. And we launched it. We fixed everything we need to do. I called the people I needed to call at ARC and I said, what was I doing? They're going, you're too close. You don't have a barrier between the campuses. There's nothing dividing y'all. You didn't pick a place where people are going to feel the pain if they have to drive through it. So we did it. And that campus is our third campus is one of the healthiest campuses. Then we took that downtown spot and we pulled it a few minutes further away, made it permanent. God's blessing's been on it. And then we've been able to find these pockets of people. And 3 of them have been church merges.
Pockets.
You find where there's the opportunities there. Don't look at a map and go, I want to be here, here, here. No. Wait for, get healthy. Yeah. You wait for the people to beg for it. And they're begging for it, going, put it in my community, put it in, I'll give towards it, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll help build it.
And I'll help build it. And we look, there's about 5 indicators we look for, but one of them is the person. And I'll have the place. If I don't have the person, it rises and falls based on who the person is. Your multi-site model will not survive if you don't have the right person. And we have found the perfect campus pastor carries the heart for the house, a love for people, and a desire to not preach.
So that's what you're looking for.
Love for the house, love for people, and I don't need to preach. I just want to love people. So we're finding people that they just love to pastor. When you look at the APEST, it's got the prophet, teacher, pastor. It's those people that are going, I'm just a pastor. I want to love on people. I can run the room. I can share the vision, and I can correct the culture. Because the more you do this, the more the culture is going to dip. And none of our buildings, we're in Highlands. Highlands has these unbelievable facilities. We'll get there. But for us, we're trying to make the most of what these little spots that God gives us. They're 300 seaters up to 900 seat buildings that we've got all over Tampa Bay. And we're taking them and we're making them the most we can. What is it to make it radiant? So we're launching these campuses. And then I'll tell you a big push for us is we've been finding opportunities within churches that COVID has killed them, but they haven't died yet.
Yeah.
They're on the slow decline, but they haven't found the need. You know what it is? It's organ donation. It's
wow.
They're older and they're dying, but they have a liver that's healthy. We are young and have life ahead of us, but we won't survive without a liver. So the marriage of the two
that is so good.
Can make it a win.
Yeah, that's going to help somebody.
And we've done 3 of them in the past year where God has given them. And what is their liver? Their liver is their building. Maybe it's some people, maybe it's some resources. Maybe it's the pastor that's there and we actually need you. And we've found that to be a major win. I'll send the pictures so people can see it. One was a Baptist church, 10 people. One of them is a 99-year-old librarian. She's been at the church for 65 years.
Gosh, how much has she given to that church?
Oh,
shout out to the hero.
Heroes. So we don't come in and go, y'all are dying. We're young.
Yeah.
You walk in with humility.
Yeah, so
what's the dream y'all have got for this community?
So
and you know what they told us? They said, we just want to see the gospel in our community. These churches are turning into apartments, and we can't let this thing go down.
Yeah, they've given so much.
They've built this thing for decades, but then they just need fresh life.
Yep.
So you know what we did? We said, we'll make a commitment for 2 things. We'll make a commitment that the gospel will be always presented in this building. And secondly, we'll make a commitment we'll always care for y'all. You will always have a pastor at this place.
That's so good.
And we put them in a room. We put an organ in that room because they couldn't deal with the music.
Yeah.
So they put an organ. We can't build a chapel yet, but we put them in a room.
Chapel, yeah.
And we stream in the message. They love the messages. They love the word. Yeah. And you know what they do? Sometimes they sneak out of the room and they look in there and they just see that room filled with people, young people worshiping. Their favorite Sunday since we launched that campus is Baptism Sunday, and they're all crying. And they're going, this is the first time people getting baptized in a decade.
Well, that's honor. I mean, you're a person of honor. You get it. You see that the kingdom's big.
It's big.
We just, the kingdom did not ride in town when we rode in town.
Nope.
The kingdom's been there a long time. It'll be there. It was there before us. It'll be there after us. So you honoring that timeline across that church, I think is one of the reasons why God is blessing that, and then being able to have those right leaders with the right idea, the right expectations, growing like that, which leads me to a thought. and you hit on it, it's making you be a very good steward of your resources.
You have to be.
So give me a quick little rundown on the values of your resources or your principles in your resources.
Well, how you handle something is how you'll handle everything.
Wow.
And that's a kingdom principle. You're faithful with little, you'll be faithful for much. So our very first month of the church, we brought in $17,000. So that $17,000, I would have thought I was a millionaire at that time. But that $17,000, you know what I did? I said, you know what? We're gonna do everything we can to steward it well. First went to missions, went to ARC.
Yeah.
We've never missed a month supporting ARC in 10 years. And you know what? We'll do it until Jesus comes home. You know what? It's the best money we invest.
Because amen.
What else are we going to multiply resources that way for the kingdom? So we give there, we invest in the kingdom, and then we're just going to handle everything. You know what I'm always looking for is I realize every time I eliminate waste, God brings blessing. Every time I eliminate waste, God brings blessing. So my job is not to search for the blessing. My job is to search for the waste. And if I can find the waste in the organization, then God will bring the blessing, because he's a God of stewardship and he sees how we handle it. So our team is not, how do we raise generosity? You preach a good series, you can do that. We can raise the money, but God will bring the money if we eliminate the waste. And we're constantly going, how can we cut back? How can we do this? You know, we had signs breaking all the time. 5 of our campuses are portable. I don't know how many times we break those stupid signs that roll up and we realize, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna train our team just a little bit more so that we stop, dude. How to just go slow.
We're doing
it all the way
training.
Sign training. Yeah. And you know what that's gonna do? It's gonna remove thousands of dollars in waste so that God can bless us more. And you handle what God's giving you now, watch how he'll bless you. We've seen 25% growth was our lowest year ever financially. 25% growth. It's anywhere from 25 to 50% growth in our finances, just multiplication every year.
Yeah.
Even in the middle of the pandemic.
That's right.
And we just live in margin because we're handling it well.
Well, there's been a couple times I've called you on a couple needs.
Absolutely.
And what's good is because you've stewarded, you have that surplus.
Yep.
And there's been a few times I've called you, hey, this guy has a need or there's an opportunity, and you're always, man, let us pray, let me look. But you're always eager to be able to be a part of what God's doing around the world, which I think is big. And then what I love too, I see happening more and more is you're now pouring into other churches.
Absolutely.
Podcast, which tell me a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, I started a leadership podcast called Made for More. And it's just our way of helping. We've created this business culture within our church. And we're like, why don't we empower them in kingdom principles in business? And so launched our Made for More podcast. And that's been just a fun thing we've done.
And then we just left a training at church planners. You're here
and
training church planners.
There's some great ones. I'm telling you, the future of the church is bright.
Yeah.
You get these guys and girls. I had dinner with a bunch of them last night, and I'm hearing going, people that are depressed about the church don't see what we see. There's so much good out there, and there's sharp leaders. And our prayer should be in this season, Lord of the harvest, raise up laborers. We need more church planners. We need more pastors to say, you know what, I'm okay sending them. I'm okay letting them go.
Sending churches.
I want to build it, and I want to launch 10 more campuses, and I'm going to need multiple other campus pastors. But I'm also okay with some of them going, I feel the call, and I'm going to support it. And we got to keep that open hand approach.
It's got to be the both end. I was the same way. I wanted to launch campuses, a healing place. We do it here. But I also wanted to see somebody go out and make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And they had that, what I had. And I think that's incredible. And, so that is exciting. And then, the other thing that I love that I see happening with you is now you're getting to expand your message. You've just written a great book.
Thanks.
And it's been out for some time. Tell me about that journey and why did you pick that topic?
All right, I'm praying for a girl on our staff.
Okay.
We're in 21 days of prayer and fasting, and I'm praying over her. I'm saying it's unfair. It's unfair how you've been. She was abused growing up. Her parents went through a brutal divorce. Ministry
praying this.
I'm praying over her. It's unfair. It's unfair how you've been hurt. It's unfair what you've gone through. It's unfair what's happened. It's unfair if you've been overlooked. And as I'm praying, I feel the Holy Spirit say, Aaron, it's unfair, but it's all been for her advantage. And boom, I stopped and I wrote down that phrase, the unfair advantage.
That day.
Right then in that moment. And so I preached a message to about 2,000 pastors in Dallas. This is March of 2020. This is right before the world shuts down. I preached this message, and there's 3 Christian authors. One of them was Mark Batterson, sitting on the front row. All 3 of them separately came up to me afterwards and said, you got to write the book, The Unfair Advantage. We got to show people how to
That's
take.
neat how it comes together.
It's always crazy.
You weren't chasing it.
Never chase it. Never chase an opportunity. Again, it's the stewardship principle. You just handle well what God's given you. So I took the pandemic, I wrote the book, and I looked at the life of Joseph and showed 7 unfair things that he went through. You know, his family didn't believe in him. He was a discouraged dreamer. He's rejected by his friends. He's working at Potiphar's house for no pay. How do we handle when we're underpaid, undervalued, overlooked? And Joseph's response to the unfair determined the advantage in his life. And people have to understand how you handle difficult things matters. People are looking for success to be handed to them. They'll never be handed success. Success is given to those who handle difficult things well. Yeah. And so I had a dirty rundown dollar theater. You know what? You would have thought that thing was the Taj Mahal for me.
Let's go.
I'm cleaning it. We're getting air scents in there. I'm down there scrubbing the carpets. I'm going to make it a win because it's what God gave me.
You got to.
And you know what the Lord did? He took it and made that unfair thing an advantage for us to go multi-site.
Yeah, always.
He always does. He takes our pain. He takes our waiting seasons. And there's people watching this and they're frustrated. I'm telling you, you live life forward, but you understand it backwards. Yeah. And you can look back on your life.
So much good stuff
and
you're saying.
Don't you look back and you go, it makes sense. It made sense that I went through this to this to this to this to get me here. Now, I would have never picked that path. I would have picked a way cleaner, easier path. So would Joseph. He had the vision, which, by the way, his wrong mentality was that the vision was about him. It wasn't about him. It was about saving the people that God wanted to save. Yeah. But he had the vision, but it was 13 years of pain to get there. Yeah. And I want to encourage people that are listening to this to just say, you know what? The 13 years are painful, but they're productive and they're purposeful. And when I look at my life, every painful season had a purpose to it. I just didn't understand it at the time. And if we give it enough time, God will use it for his glory. So that's what the whole book is about, 7 unfair things. A lot of people use it for small group material in their church and just go through it, and I hope it helps some people.
That's a message for people, not just pastors.
It's for everybody.
Because, you know, we live in a world right now where people feel there's so much unfair. You hear it in the church a lot now. Man, I wasn't treated right, and to some point, they weren't. I've been hurt, and to some reality, yes, you were hurt, you were overlooked, you were overworked. But your response to that is everything.
See, 2 people go through the same painful situation. One of them comes out better with ministry. One comes out bitter and angry. Same scenario. Why? Our response matters. Yeah. You know, that's what I said in the book. I said, God's plan for your life and him using your pain into purpose is available, but it's not automatic. It's not automatic. There's some things you've got to do. It's interesting with Joseph's story that he gets betrayed by his brothers, and yet for 13 years, we don't hear one time about bitterness, resentment, revenge. He lived with the heart of, you know what, God's going to use it. It's okay. Yeah. I'm not entitled to anything. I'm not owed anything.
Yeah, it's not like when he was in prison, he was telling his story to everybody that would listen to him.
Can you believe what they did to me?
Can you believe how they treated me?
No. You know what? I'm going to live with the posture that I serve a God that orders the steps of a righteous man. Amen. Joseph many times did the right thing. He ran from Potiphar's wife and gets thrown into prison. If I was writing the story, you get rejected, you live in integrity, you do the right thing, you're a person of integrity, and you're promoted to the palace. Exactly. Nope. He went from integrity to the prison. They say he's in the prison for 10 years. So 13 years, 10 of the years, he's sitting in a prison for a crime he didn't commit. Let me tell you a crazy story, Dino. So I'm sitting there going, God, why 10 years? A decade in the prison.
Yeah, a decade.
That's a long time. That's a long time for something you didn't do. And there's probably people listening to this going, I didn't sign up for this. I've been doing the right thing. Yeah. And I started researching the prison systems of the ancient world. 4,000 years ago. There's not prison 4,000 years ago. You know what they did? The Egyptian culture was so advanced. What they did with prisoners is they took them and put them in this area where they educated them. So what they would do is they'd take their greatest educators, and I've got all the stats in the book. Yeah. They took their greatest educators and they brought them into the prison because the goal was not punishment. The goal was preparation and to transform them to be good citizens. So wouldn't it be like our God to take a guy from hundreds of miles away, put a dream in his heart, bring him on a path, but he doesn't know the language, he doesn't know the culture, he doesn't know how to lead, and God puts him in an education system for 10 years. We thought it was prison, it was preparation. Yeah. And he's learning the language, he's learning it so that when the opportunity comes, Now he's able to,
He's stepping in.
he's ready to walk in. And what I've learned in my life is any season I'm in, waiting, the prison, the difficult season, it's always preparation from God. So I'm asking God two things, and this is what Joseph did in the prison. He's asking God, what do I need to learn? So I'm learning something I need to learn. And who do I need to connect with? Because you know the kingdom of God is advanced by relationship. And it was one of my waiting seasons. God connects me with Dino Rizzo. And it was in that season, I never would have known the doors that the Lord has opened up for my life because of that relationship in a difficult season. You look for the difficult, in those difficult seasons, God, what are you teaching me? Who you connected me with? Because God was teaching him in the prison and then connected him with the baker that would bring him out of the prison. So there's somebody God's kind of trying to connect you with.
I've listened, I've leaned in, but man, that is, I didn't even, never had heard of that in my life. Never thought of that in my life. That's why God gives you that revelation, and that's why God's elevating you and giving you an opportunity to because I think you're a good model for young planters. I think you're a good model for the next generation. And I think one of those reasons why, and I'll wrap up with this because it's the best, it's how much you love your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, you love your wife, you love your kids. Y'all do ministry together. How does that look for you as it relates to your ministry together?
You know, Katie, my wife, loves Jesus. She loves our church. Our church was our idea, not my idea. I think that's real important. We were both called.
That is good.
And we came in and we moved with a 6-month-old baby into Tampa. And we prayed through it. I'll tell you, we went through some difficult seasons and we realized the enemy wants to take our marriage out.
Of course.
And if he can take your marriage out, he can take your ministry out. And what I've realized, that's the most important investment. So we make an investment. We live by a 7-7-7 rule. Every 7 days, we're going on a date somewhere. And we've had little babies at home. You know what that meant sometimes? We're sitting there on date night with a little baby trying to do. We're going to figure out a way every 7 days. Every 7 weeks, we do a date day away. We're going to go, okay, about every month and a half, we're going to get away for a day, maybe spend the night somewhere, maybe just do something to invest in us. And every 7 months, we're going on a little vacation. We're getting away. We're getting a vacation. And a vacation is not a vacation when your kids are there. That's a trip. When there's no kids, that's a vacation.
It's a work trip.
I'm telling you, it's a lot of work. And so I've talked to these couples that go, we haven't gone on a vacation by ourselves since our kids were born. I'm going, that's the worst thing for your marriage and worst thing for your church. The best investment I make in our church is a healthy marriage. And the best investment I make in my kids is a healthy marriage. And if I'll invest in my marriage, because we all know what it's like to have painful home life, it affects everything.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to make that healthy. I'm going to make our home healthy. I'm going to make our kids, we have a vision for our kids. They're going to love Jesus, and we're going to make sure that we live a life that they want to love Jesus. They're going to love the church. You know what? My kids have gotten McDonald's, and some people are going to hate this. They get McDonald's every Sunday that they leave church. Every Sunday when they leave, they go through the McDonald's drive-thru. And you go, well, that's unhealthy. You know what it is? It's my kids love the church because we get McDonald's today.
That's a reward.
And it's a reward. And they turned 8. I met with Craig Rochelle. I said, how do I get my kids to love the church? He said, when they turn 8, you get them serving. Yes, sir. My kids, when they both, the oldest ones, when they turn 8, serve one service. 1 week they serve, the next week they don't serve. And you know what they do? It's no longer Dad and Mom's church. It's my church.
Yeah.
We had a leadership night the other night. My daughter's like, hey, when are we going to leadership night? I said, baby, you're not a leader. I'm a leader.
Yeah, I'm a leader.
Like,
and we're going to McDonald's afterwards.
Yeah. I'm like, you're 11.
If we were in Baton Rouge, we'd go to Cane's.
No, I love some Cane's. They're going to love God. They're going to love the church, and they're going to love us.
Yeah.
We're going to cultivate, and you've done that so well, where your kids love to be around each other.
Yeah.
And so it's got to take intentionality.
Well, I appreciate you being on Unscripted, and I love hearing you communicate. I want to hear it more and more. I believe everybody in the world needs to follow you, needs to learn from you, and we're going to do all we can to make sure that happens at ARC. So
love you,
love you so much. Thanks, Aaron.
Yep.
Hey, we're so honored that you joined us on this episode here at Unscripted. If you're interested in learning more about planting a church or partnering with ARC, we'd love to get you connected. So visit our website at arcchurches.com for more information. Love to have you a part of this journey. So thanks again for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Unscripted.